Hi, this is Jokina and Miss Tallulah. Welcome to Modern Homemakers, and today I'm going to show you how to make this free pattern for newborn pants. We are 2 weeks old today, so I was like, we better take this video fast while it still fits because our sleepers, she's starting to push those legs out. So the benefit to the pants is that there is the open toe, so these can go a little bit later. To make these newborn pants, you're going to need half a yard of knit stretchy knit fabric, and you're going to need a sewing machine. Doesn't have to be this one, but this one is held up for me. There's a free pattern link in the description. You're welcome. And you'll need a coordinating thread and pins, scissors, and a little bit of 3/4 inch elastic. I am using this adorable fabric. It came as a set of 7, so this is my second one I'm taking out of it. There's some of the other ones that are in there. I'll have this in the description as well. It was just a really good online price as far as having that convenience of not going anywhere, and they were all half a yard because you just really don't need much fabric for baby clothes. You can also use things like old t-shirts, which is what I did for all of my samples, and then they're free. All right, so step 1 is I'm going to go wash this on warm with an unscented detergent. I have like a natural baby detergent. Wash it on warm, dry it so it does any shrinking it's gonna do before we sew it. We've got 5 pattern pieces, so make sure you got them all printed. And the black border is part of the pattern piece, so don't cut that off. See how I'm cutting to the side of the black border? And you're gonna wanna do that for all of these pieces, and then I'll show you how they fit together. So cut all 5 pages out. We're gonna take piece A and attach it to piece B. So don't overlap, you're just pressing them right up next to each other. That. Piece C is going to connect to D. And you don't have to do anything with E. How easy was that? That's so much easier than the baby sleeper if you've already made that one with me. So I have the fabric doubled up. You can see 2 layers here. And this fabric has a really wide selvage area, so make sure your pattern's not in that doesn't look like everything else. I have let's see here, this is half a yard, so you could probably make this on much less. I have made several pairs of these out of t-shirts from the kids. They really don't use a lot of fabric. Just pin it out. The arrows are really important for the front and back, especially depending on the type of print. The cuff, however, can be a little more forgiving. So you could even do the cuff in a complementary fabric instead of a matching fabric if you didn't have enough of one fabric and you were just trying to use up some scraps. The black part of the pattern is part of the piece. Straightforward, pin it up and cut it out. I'll come back when that's done. It's time to piece this together. We've got everything cut out. So I've got the back and I've got the front. The front is narrower so we can tell the difference. And what we're gonna do is open up the back pieces with the right sides facing up, and then we're gonna lay the front pieces matching up the bottom like that. So you can do that to both sides, matching those up, and then we're gonna pin. This has to be stretchy fabric. You can get that curve to match in there. That was it. It's that simple. And we're gonna do the same thing to the other leg. But first, we're gonna straight stitch. So we're gonna line up the right side of the fabric with this little hole in the presser foot. go a little bit, and then I'm gonna press the reverse to back it up. And then I'll keep going straight again. Probably could have put one more pin in there, but I didn't. So I don't have to cut an extra thread. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Put it back down, and I'm zigzagging along the edge. So not where the seam was, just along the edge where the rim. Okay, so that is from the bottom, from the crotch to the bottom of the leg. Do that on both pieces. We've got that done on both pieces. Now we're gonna do the sides. So same thing, we're gonna line up the sides and put in a few pins. Listening to the toddler talking in the background. He is probably narrating another language that I just don't speak. That's my theory. So once again, you'll do the same thing to both sides. You'll pin this side as well. Lining up with the right hole for this 1/4 inch. Go a little bit, press the reverse, go back. These pants sew up super fast. Way easier than the sleeper pattern that I put up there if you haven't seen that. And even the onesie pattern in my opinion. I was kind of like, why didn't I start with pants, you know? And then same thing, we're gonna flip it. And along the edge, we're zigzagging. The other leg, do the same thing. These are what we've got going on here. We're just gonna push these aside for a second on my messy desk. No judgment. And now we've got our cuff pieces. To start with, we're going to just set them both next to each other so we can see them. We're gonna fold them in half like hot dog style. So if you haven't been in kindergarten in a while, this is hamburger style. This is hot dog style. There's a quick refresher for you. Those of us with children everywhere, we're all about the hot dog and hamburger fold. Okay, so once we've done the hot dog fold, we're gonna fold in half once more this way. And I'm gonna put a pin in it. So you'll do the same thing to the other cuff piece. Do a straight stitch. I'm just so original here, lining up for that 1/4 inch. Back it up a little. And you guessed it, a zigzag on the edge. But at this point, I'm gonna turn one of these legs right side out. So the part that's open is where we're gonna have the tummy. So we're just gonna leave that open right now. And I'm going to put one pin. So this is the side where we made the seam and it lays perfectly flat. So this other side where there's the fold, I'm gonna put a pin over there so I know where that center is. I want this seam to be on the inside of the pant, like the inner leg. You may want it on the outside, whatever floats your boat. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave it with the sewed side out, and I'm gonna slip this through it. So the inner seam is gonna match up with this seam. And I'm gonna put a pin right where those two seams match up. This is one of those tricky spots to sew because it's so tiny. I blame those babies, they come out tiny. Actually, I'm not blaming them for that. I'm grateful for that. Okay, I'm gonna get another pin. So lining up that side seam with where we put the pin, which is the center of the cuff. And then taking out the pin I had there. And then, you know, I'm just gonna go around and put in another pin or two on each side. I think I'll do 2 actually. And then the same thing on this side. So you've got 3 layers. The cuff has 2 layers, and then the pant itself has 1 layer. So just try to keep everything lined up as much as possible. So to check this, that it's right, it seems a little silly that you've got the inner part of the seam showing here, and this is the outside, but this is going to flip down when you're done. So this is right. My machine lets me take off part of it, and I don't know if that really helps or not, but I like to pretend it does. If it's a slightly larger thing, you can slip it around, and that's really nice. But these baby clothes, they are tiny. I'm gonna start at the big, bulky inner seam, and we are pushing it over for that 1/4 inch. And this is a tight working space here. So once again, we're doing that straight stitch. And just go really slow, because seam ripping is not fun. Taking out pins as we go. And you just gotta make sure you just have that section you're trying to sew, nothing else bunched up under it. Just keep kind of like unraveling it basically. It's starting to get where it's not lined up because this pin came out, so I'm gonna have to be careful when I get there. Sorry, this is hard to show. It's just so tiny. So bear with me, we're almost done. Here, I think I can get a little more of my hand out of the way for this section. And we're out of pins, but we've got a little bit more to go. This is where we started, you can see right there. And I overlapped it just a little. And this is the point where you're like, okay, I believed in you, and I still think it was sewed upside down, but it wasn't. Okay, we're gonna cut all these threads, because once again, any of these threads could wrap around little hands, little toes. And we don't want that. All right, so this is the big moment. Dun, 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 dun. Whew, okay, so we lined up, that was a big one. And now you don't have to use your imagination as much to see that, oh yeah, that does look finished. So do the exact same thing with the other cuff and the other leg, and I'll meet you back in a minute. I realized I forgot to zigzag. I was all excited about showing you that it flipped out properly, so I'm gonna show you the zigzag around real quick. After the straight stitch, zigzag along the edge. I can't believe I forgot that. Actually, I can, because I am 9 months pregnant and a super zoner. There you go, the step that I missed, the zigzag. Man, this thing's booking. This doesn't matter as much in this moment, but do notice that the front of the pant is slightly skinnier than the back of the pant. So I've got both fronts facing forward, and we are simply going to connect from the top. So I'll put a pin in here. I have to go sideways. I'm just always inconsistent in which way I want to put my pins. And then we're gonna line up the 2 center seams and try to get a pin straight through that. And then you can throw 1 or 2 more along the side here. You can throw a pin because your joints are all loosened from pregnancy and everyone's making fun of you because you just drop everything constantly. And then we'll come up around the side to the back. That was a gross swallow sound. My 2-year-old is eating hummus, meaning he's smearing it all over his fingers while I'm filming. Here's some of the background noise. He's like, has a spoon, but he's putting the hummus on his fingers instead. Why, Rex? Does it taste better that way? Yeah. Burning through that bath you got yesterday pretty fast, buddy. Sticky. Fingers. Ah. Okay, so we've got that all pinned, and now it's time for that 1/4 inch straight stitch. So don't sew over the wrong bulk of another part of the pants, just try to stay just in this section. With this hole in the presser foot to get a 1/4 inch, we're gonna go a little bit, and then back it up. Just keep peeling away all the extra pants stuff in the way. Ow! I poked. Ooh, we're almost to the end. Then we're gonna flip it and zigzag. Zigzag. This part's a little trickier because it has the bulk of both legs, so you might have to lift the presser foot and kind of guide it under. So at this point, this is what we look like. Now for this next step, it's very important that you have the front in the front. So that's the skinnier part in the back and the back, because I'm going to show you what we're headed towards here. This was my big money saver, by the way. These are all, I have all these different versions that I was working on of this pattern, and these are all my daughter's t-shirts that she was getting rid of. If you're trying to make these frugally, go raid your own Goodwill pile before. But I mean, come on, these are the cutest. Those are the picked out fabrics. The reason the front and back matters is because you can see I have a pin on either side here, and that is where I'm going to insert the elastic. So it will never be, this is a contrasting fabric one, or thread one, so you can see how that's not perfect in there. That's where the back thing happens. Very unlikely that you're gonna perfectly get that lined up. Yeah, I can't really tell with the other ones because the thread matched better. We're gonna fold over 1 1/4 inches. Got my little tape here, and I'll start with the back. So fold it over, and then we're gonna measure. That was really close. All right, so that is 1 1/4 inches, and then I'm gonna toss a pin on either side of the back seam. So I've got space to put in my elastic. So that wasn't quite lined up perfectly. So you're just gonna go all the way around, and every once in a while, like I'll go to the side seam and I'll Just measure again for that 1¼ I went a little too far, I overshot it. 1¼ inches. We're putting in 3/4 inch elastic, so this gives us plenty of space to make sure we can still maneuver that. But I am not gonna make you watch me go all the way around, although I will fix, I don't know why I was going side. I intentionally did this direction so that I will know that's my stop sewing point, but I'm gonna put the other ones going horizontal. So horizontal pins, except for the 2 that say, hey, stop sewing, because we are not sewing where we need to put in the elastic. Got some elastic here. This was the best deal I could find on Amazon. Elastic, I have a lot of older elastic, and as it gets older, it doesn't bounce back as well. That's like you might be replacing elastic, an old pair of pants or something. I think I have a video on that. If I do, I'll throw up a link there if you've got some pants that are sad and past their prime. I was excited to get some new elastic, which should hold me through all of my baby sewing and more. We're gonna cut a 14-inch piece of elastic. So once again, just use your tape measure. Don't cut the tape measure, because you know, somehow you've managed to not lose that for like a decade. I really don't know how. It's impressive. And we'll set that to the side. Oh, I skipped a step that I did on here. I'm always doing things differently. This is optional, but I did a zigzag all the way around before I folded it on this one. And I thought, you know, if it's ravelly, that would help. So that's up to you whether or not you want to do that step. And I'm not doing it with this one, so there you go. And I'm gonna do a straight stitch. So I'm gonna start right next to one of these sideways pins that I put in. And I'm gonna line up with the left hole of the presser foot, lining up the turned over fabric piece. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like I should have done my zigzag, but I'm not going back. So you do better than me, you do your zigzag. I've just made so many pairs at this point, I kind of like went into autopilot. And then I'm getting ready to turn this into a 0 to 3 month cut. Stop, because we're leaving that gap on purpose. And at this point, I'm going to take out my sideways pins. I don't need them anymore. It's really important that the wider back have this in case it's not so perfectly lined up in the end, which mine are often falling from perfection. You need something like a big straight pen, because we are going to feed this elastic through that we cut, our 14-inch piece of elastic. So I'm just poking it on the end there. And then I'm going to go up through this hole that we left and just start pulling. So you push the safety pin and then you kind of pull the fabric to the side. Tricky when you get to the side seams because there are like 4 pieces of fabric in there and it gets caught on them. So be slow and patient. You don't want to unhook the safety pin because then you're basically pulling it out and starting over again. And that's annoying. Same thing, the side, just carefully go through. Loud eating sounds in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. I can. So at this point, you don't want to lose either side. I almost pulled that one out all the way. And you want to make sure that it hasn't turned. Make sure that it's flat, feel it all the way around. And we are going to overlap this elastic by like 1 inch. So it's going this direction all the way around. So you can see I've got it overlapping by like an inch, and then we'll throw a pin in just to try to keep that as I start sewing. And this can be one of the harder moments for your machine, depending on your elastic. I'm gonna start with the straight stitch, but I'll probably throw in some zigzag action too. But I'm gonna go around like a box, I'm gonna go sideways. You just want this elastic to stay put. So don't just do like a line here and think you're done, because that would be very easy for that to pop, because all the pressure goes on the waistline. At that point, I've done like a whole box, you can see beneath. And now I'm just gonna go around again with some zigzag, just as an extra. If the one pops, the other is still there. And then I'm gonna go diagonal right across the middle. Alright, and that's as much as I care to exert into this process, so super ugly on the back, but you're never going to see that. You're not even going to see the front, it's all going to be closed up. So trimming that off. And now we're going to kind of like stretch it out so it's evenly distributed. And we have this section in the back where we left it open, and we've got to close that up. So I'm going to put a pin in there, and we're going to not top stitch, we're coming in from the back again. So you're gonna try to line up exactly where you left off. So here's where my stitches were. You could even hand crank it down into position, and maybe you'll match it up. I'm kind of hit or miss on this, I'm not gonna lie. But you'll be looking at the baby, not at this one little seam in the back, probably. There you go, let's see how we did. Yep, over here I did pretty good. Over here, meh. I mean, you know, would that end up on a reject pile in a store? Maybe. Do I care enough to seam rip it? No. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this free pattern for these newborn pants. Oh yeah, you might want to check out if you haven't already done so. We've got this onesie pattern and a sleeper pattern as well. So check them out. Is the bow going down too low? Oh no, oh no, fashion. Fashion is just so annoying. Here you go, here you go. Anyway, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends. Oh, I gotta go get back to enjoying this baby. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.